Some individuals, you know, have that one moment when everything makes sense, like a scene you didn't request but can't stop seeing once it happens. Yes, that was my sister's wedding. In my opinion, that weekend, I packed a suitcase full of be polite and don't start anything instructions and took off for Vermont. The family's golden girl, my sister Eliza, was being married at this fancy lakeside resort with gardens straight out of a Nancy Meyers film. Imagine an open bar with better whiskey than I could buy with my pay, floral archways, and string quartets. I wasn't in the ballroom with my parents or relatives, and I was 34, unmarried, and sitting at table H, not even close to the buffet. I'm not lying when I say that I was put in the hallway, next to the blasted coat rack exactly. I had the pleasure of hearing such news from a staff member wearing a sharp black suit. "You're seated just outside the main reception hall," she added, her voice as flawless as if she had studied. As if I had misheard, I blinked at her. "I apologize. But where?" She did it again with a little more vigor, as if it would be less painful if the term hallway had more sunshine. This enormous mirror, which had a sophisticated gold trim, held the seating chart. Ronald and Susan, my parents, were seated at the head table. The sorority sisters of Eliza had excellent placements. Her fiancé's neighbors, coworkers, dog groomer, and God knows who also did. Me. I didn't even exist, apparently. I recall standing there like an unexpected ghost. I approached my mother, who was laughing like the world's queen and fluffing Eliza's veil. I spoke in a calm tone. "Mom, could I speak to you for a moment?" She avoided eye contact. "Not now, Rachel," he said. "We are somewhat in the midst of a situation," that phrase, that voice. It sounded tasteless to her tongue the way she spoke, Rachel. I gave it another go. "It's crucial. I believe there was a mistake." She let out a sigh as though I were requesting that she move a mountain. She didn't flinch when I told her that I had been sitting in the corridor. "Well, honey, we had to prioritize close family," he answered with a shrug. I gazed at her. "My family is very close to me." She laughed a little, but it was like a slap. "Don't make it a big deal." Then Eliza, all smugness and pearls, interrupted with her sweet voice, saying, "It's not personal. Rach, weddings are busy. Don't interpret it incorrectly. Not intimate. Correct. Their daughter was me, her sister, however. They made room for Todd's barber and distant Canadian cousins, and I was left parked next to the coat check like a lost umbrella, as if it were a joke no one had told me. I stood there with this lovely little place card that had my name written in cursive. Evans. Rachel. Table H. I had perspiration on my hand. My chest was constricted. I'm not sure what I anticipated. I wanted to feel like I belonged. Maybe for once. As if I were more than just background noise in the highlight reel of the Evans family. That obviously wasn't part of the script, though. I turned to leave. Like a metronome timing the seconds till something breaks. Heels click on the gleaming marble. I wasn't yet furious. Simply put, hollow, as if nothing was passing through. Even though my lungs were still functioning, then I heard it. Eliza's voice said, "Rachel." I pivoted, arms crossed, veil floating in the air conditioning breeze, lipstick too flawless for the poison behind her words. She stood there. She remarked, "You're upset." "Not a query. Don't worry. Just a simple remark." I chuckled a little. "I'm not angry. I'm let down." She cocked her head like a cat observing a mouse that it had no intention of killing just yet. "You're so sensitive all the time. It's only a seat. Who gives a damn?" I gave her a serious look, and I saw it for the first time. Not only the deception, the joy. She enjoyed seeing me get smaller, I said. "You know it's not about the seat. It has to do with how you handle me, the way they handle me." "This is how it has always been." She gave a shrug. "All right, you came nonetheless. Don the elegant clothing anyway." "I'm still hoping for attention." She lowered her voice and took a step closer. "You're in dire need of acceptance. It's a little depressing." I tightened my jaw. "No. Eliza. The unfortunate thing is that in order to feel important, you have to destroy someone else. And I swear." Her mask slipped for a moment. Then Mom came, reticent, evidently irritated. "What's happening?" I reiterated. concerning the seats, about feeling like an afterthought. Dang it. She grinned as though she were calming a fussy dinner party guest. Don't be theatrical, Rachel. Our space was restricted. People needed to be placed nearer to Eliza, those who have supported her. I gazed at her. I am your daughter. I have also been there. You've always been self-sufficient, she remarked, dismissing it. We assumed you wouldn't mind. It was that. That remark. You've always been independent was my childhood hymn. Every forgotten birthday, every missed performance, and every picture in which I was standing off to the side, like a +1 to my own existence, were all justified by it. Then Dad arrived. It's just a seat, Rach, they said in a quiet voice while keeping their eyes on the ground. Avoid making it a thing. Something changed inside of me at that point. Silently, irrevocably, I refrained from arguing. I refrained from crying. I simply turned and left, ignoring the servers, the glistening lights, and the laughs. I sat down next to a sign directing people to the bathrooms, a phony ficus plant, and the coat rack. I sat there as well, not because I had to, but for the first time, but because I decided to stop pursuing their ideal of love. That seemed to be the end of it. However, that was just the start. I waited for something while I sat in that hallway. Something, not someone. Perhaps a sign or a cause. Behind me, the music floated through the closed doors. People were smiling and clinking their glasses as a string quartet played a wedding song that was overdone. The air was heavy with the overly sweet, almost fake smell of lilies, as in the entire day. I gazed down at the place card in my lap, which was written in gold, Rachel Evans, Table H. I repeatedly turned it over as if the repetition would lessen the pain. It didn't. Beside the window, there was a bench. I took a seat in front of the glass and saw the hallway's reflection, which was only the silhouette of a person rather than me, someone who doesn't appear in their own narrative. I considered returning inside, grinning. I'm pretending, using dessert to have courteous conversations with those who couldn't recall my name. However, I remained motionless. Rather, my thoughts uninvitedly strayed to a recollection I hadn't revisited for years. It was 3 Thanksgivings ago. Eliza had been traveling the world with her new partner, and they had been in Portugal. Mom and I were alone at home in Albany. It was that day, silent, nearly tranquil, like I could finally hear my own thoughts without Eliza's voice filling every area. I was requested by Mom to look through my old bedroom for pictures of the family. I want to put together an album, she added. And my goodness, I was eager, perhaps, I reasoned. That was her way of seeing me and connecting with me. Not much had changed in my room. The same dusty bookcase, the same faded posters, the same lone bed beneath the window. The picture box was hidden in a drawer. Then, for no apparent reason, my gaze fell upon Mom's conceit. On the left, the little drawer. I have no idea why I opened it. I wasn't spying, I wasn't upset. Simply wondering. There was a notebook inside, light brown, velvety from usage, leather-bound. I took it open. First page, Eliza didn't cry on her first day of kindergarten. She ran inside after waving at me. My daring little darling, I flipped the page. On Thursdays, Eliza adores my baked pasta. Thunder used to frighten Eliza. She's so courageous now. The nursing dress one purchased Eliza for her 8th birthday was her favorite birthday present. Page after page. Eliza's achievements, her anxieties, her favorites, a silent, loving chronicle of each year. Each moment. An autobiography written by a mother to her daughter. Not to me, though. I flipped more quickly, looking around. There had to be my name. A single page. Just one line. Just one memory. Nothing. Not once. Even though it wasn't chilly, I can still remember how cold my hands felt. My fingers ached from holding the book so tightly. I was breathing more slowly. At the time, I wasn't upset either. Simply put, hollow. Like when you discover for the first time that someone you love doesn't see you the way you do. After a few minutes, Mom entered. I noticed the book lying open on my lap. You write about Eliza in all of this? I inquired. I had no intention of accusing her. All I wanted to do was comprehend. Softly. as if it were the most normal thing in the world. She grinned. She shouldn't have felt neglected, in my opinion. She has always had a sensitive nature. I took a bite out of my cheek. And me. She gave me a direct glance. You've been resilient all along. You never required it. That was her justification. It wasn't necessary to remember me. Since I was accustomed to being disregarded, it had been years since I had given the journal any thought. I had covered up the recollection with 1,000 justifications. But it all came back to me now, sitting at Eliza's wedding like an afterthought. It didn't feel like an error to use that hallway. It was as if it were confirmation, unsure of what to do with the knowledge that I had spent my entire life trying out for a part in a family that never truly wanted me on the cast list. I sat there in silence. Then I heard footsteps. Rachel. It wasn't a harsh voice. Wasn't really sweet. It was difficult. I raised my head. Ethan Bennett, the groom, was standing in front of me with a champagne flute in one hand and his tie slightly loose. He had gentle, but hazy, eyes, like a person who wasn't accustomed to uncertainty. Don't feel comfortable sitting there, he remarked. I had a quiet, resentful laugh once. Your family doesn't believe that. Without asking, he took a seat next to me. The silence was natural and unforced. Simply put, weighty. May I ask you a question? He uttered those words. I gave a nod. His eyes flicked away for a moment as he hesitated. Has Eliza mentioned me at any point? That appeared to be away. I cocked my head. Like what? Just, she has changed recently, in charge. Covert. She doesn't want me to know some things. And I am beginning to realize. He trailed off before letting out a sigh. Perhaps I don't know her as well as I believed. I didn't say anything at first. I would have defended Eliza at one point. Or at the very least, kept quiet. That habit is hard to break. However, I couldn't help but notice something in Ethan's expression, his voice, and his bewilderment, I whispered. She's not who she pretends to be. She does well on stage, particularly in front of an audience. His lips were squeezed together as he gave a single nod. Then a different voice interrupted, clear, calm, and chilling. Perhaps I can help you understand if you're still unsure. Both of us turned. At the end of the hallway was a woman, a sophisticated navy dress, a flawless chignon of platinum hair, eyes capable of breaking glass. Bennett, Celeste, Ethan's mom, on the carpet. Her heels were silent as she approached us. She had a phone in her hand. She told Ethan, I didn't have anything in mind, but I accidentally got something. A copy of her stylist's file, without thinking. I opened it. She gave the phone to Ethan. He scrolled. I saw his face change from bewilderment to incredulity to a sort of shattered quiet. His hand shook, not overtly but sufficiently. She gave me a call, foreseeable, he muttered. She was teaching me how to be the ideal husband, I was told. I didn't have to look at him as he turned the screen in my direction. I sensed what was about to happen already. She assured her pal that she would have the house in 6 months, claimed she would have it all if she played lovely in front of you. Mom, Celeste's cold, low voice interrupted. There's more. I didn't have to listen to it. Ethan didn't either, with his fingers still gripping the phone as if it were made of glass. He simply sat there. And then I became aware of. It was no longer about me being invisible on this day. It was about someone seeing at last. There is a certain silence that seems like a hand pressing down on your chest, rather than merely filling a space. That's how it felt in the second-floor private conference room. No longer were we at a wedding. It was a reckoning for us. At the head of the long table was Ethan, shoulders tense, gaze staring off into nowhere. His mother was standing behind him, holding him to the ground with a solid hand on his shoulder. Something told me I had to be off to the right. Even though I wasn't sure why I was still there, I didn't belong to the family. However, I was unable to go because I now knew enough of the reality. Not quite yet. The door opened. With our mother Susan close behind her, Eliza entered. Mom appeared perplexed. Eliza didn't. It appeared as though she had just entered a chamber that was locked from the inside. She looked at everyone, observing their body language and taking a temperature measurement. It was almost like I could see the gears turning. What's happening? Too hastily? She inquired. Why are we removing guests from the reception? At first, nobody responded. Then Ethan got to his feet. He took a white envelope out of his jacket and laid it flat on the table. Are you aware of this? Eliza didn't blink, didn't respond. Petition for annulment, he said. I've already signed. Behind her, Mom gasped. It was a slight but harsh sound, as if she had finally realized this was no joke. Eliza said in a slightly higher than normal voice, as if practicing control. You're kidding. This is crazy. The wedding day has arrived. Celeste took a step ahead. Her voice remained the same. Her face remained unflinching. Eliza, we read the messages. Eliza glanced first at Ethan and then at me. Ethan interrupted her as she opened her mouth, possibly to refute it or to do anything. His voice was clean yet tense as he said, I believed you. I believed everything to be true, including the sweetness, the dreams, and the way you gazed at me. She stepped up and stated, It was real. I love you, Ethan. I didn't want to miss this opportunity. Avoid being poisoned by Rachel. I know her better than you do. With enough force to cause the glasses to rattle, Ethan smashed his hand down on the envelope. Avoid deflecting. Not now. Like a chilly front, the words swept across the room. At last. Mom came forward. Tell me this isn't true, Elizabeth. The messages. The fashion designer. The consultation for a divorce. Eliza remained silent. She was not required to. The response was silence. In case anyone wanted to think this was overblown, Celeste pulled out a printed copy of one of the texts. Ethan is easy to manage, she wrote. And I quote her, they will all love it if you just play gently. I'll work hard to have everything in my name after we get married, like fog in the air. The words hovered there. Someone must have texted my father, Ronald, since I saw him enter the room at that moment. He paused just inside the doorway and glanced at each face. At last, he looked at Mom. Were you aware? He inquired. Panic flooded her eyes. No, Ron, I didn't think that. I believed Eliza simply, you never imagine, he replied softly. You only make assumptions based on what makes you happy. Then he came over to me, and I witnessed something that I hadn't seen in decades. He gave me a direct glance. I'm not past it, not via me, at me. Rachel, he said. I apologize. I blinked. He'd never said those things to me before. Not once. Not after my appendix operation, when I sat by myself in a hospital room. Not when I took a bus to college because no one was available to take me, or when Eliza wrecked my car and they accused me of letting her borrow it. He didn't say anything for too long, for many years, and now, he remarked, I let this family drift. I allowed others to alter the truth, and I allowed you to bear the blame for something you didn't do. I simultaneously felt nothing and everything, as if sorrow and validation were flowing into one cup. Then Eliza lost her temper. You're siding with her, she yelled, her voice breaking. For her, you're betraying your own daughter. The one who's always waiting to attack in the background. Ethan looked down at her. Eliza. Nobody had to turn against you. You made yourself vulnerable. She was falling apart. Quick. She clenched her hands. She spoke more quickly than she thought. You guys believe you're superior to me. Do you believe Rachel is a victim of some sort? She has a history of jealousy, always attempting to discredit me. Calmly, I gazed at her. I said, I didn't have to make you look bad. You did that on your own. You wished to rob me of everything. She let out a scream. My voice was flat as I said, I don't want anything from you. All I want to do is quit acting. At that point, Mom intervened once more. She didn't stand up for Eliza this time, though. She gazed at her as if she were meeting someone for the first time. She muttered, I don't know who you are anymore. And Rachel is not to blame for that. Eliza faced me once more. She looked for the first time in her life, terrified, not of what we were aware of, but of doing it alone. She opened her mouth to say something, perhaps a plea, a reason, or an explanation. However, it never surfaced. Her mouth shook. She lowered her shoulders. She was becoming unruly. She was aware of it. She whirled back at me. She growled, You've always detested me. No, I replied. For the first time, I no longer hate myself for not being you. Then, with her heels hammering the tile like a warning, she advanced too quickly and too closely. Celeste, however, intervened. Like a mother lion who's had enough, one hand out. That's sufficient, she declared. It would be my fault if I allowed you to act out again. Eliza gave her a look. Nobody else took over? No, Dad. Not your mother. Not even Ethan. And that quiet. The sound of the pedestal collapsing was that silence. With her face flushed and her fists clenched, Eliza whirled around and pushed the doors wide. She bounded out. She stayed at the resort, nevertheless. She returned to the waiting area. Let's get back to the visitors. Let's return to the mob. She caused the entire wedding to witness her fall in a moment I will never forget. One that is etched into my memory like an old scar. She didn't flee. She marched. Eliza pushed the ballroom doors open, as if she were entering rather than leaving. As if it were still her program. It was her day, her audience. The music inside didn't immediately stop. It faded and slowed, as if the band realized something wasn't right. Then there was a pause. 200 heads turned. Mid-bite, mid-laugh, mid-toast, guests. Forks lingered. The eyes grew wide. Individuals tensed in their seats, as if they had inadvertently stumbled into a situation they weren't allowed to see. Eliza stood in the middle of it all, her breath irregular, her makeup streaked, her veil twisted, a woman dressed in the wreckage of her own act. You believe you can make me look bad like this? Her voice broke through the silent air as she yelled. No one responded. I put my all into today. I prepared every meal, every speech, and every flower, and now you're trying to ruin me because of a few texts. Her comments bounced about the room with the chandeliers. A few of the guests reclined. A few got to their feet. However, nobody spoke up, slowly and deliberately. I had trailed behind. Not to stop her. Not to keep her alive. Simply to observe. With a voice as serene as stones skipping over still water, Ethan took a step forward. Eliza, you were not destroyed by anyone. He met her eyes with his own. You did that on your own. As if to reverse reality, she shook her head. As if she could still turn this into a comedy, a fit, or anything else. Ethan, you love me, she stated in a desperate tone. You stated it. We vowed to do something. I went above and above for us. Celeste took a step next to him. No, she muttered. You gave your everything for yourself. Being a Bennett was never your dream. All you wanted was what we had. A tremor swept over the space. Just realization, not gasps. The kind that, in retrospect, makes too much sense and punches you in the gut. Eliza's voice was frantic as she began to look around the gathering. Rachel has always detested me, she yelled, pointing at me. She made this up. She is envious ever since we were young. She has been envious. This was spoiled by her. The visitors turned to face me, and I didn't shrink for the first time in my life. I took a cautious, steady step forward, my heels making no sound on the carpet. I murmured, just loud enough to be heard. I don't need to ruin anything. The truth is self-sufficient. That touched down. Although Eliza's lips moved, no sound was released. She faced Ethan once more. Please, she pleaded, her voice now hardly audible. You can't abandon me. I am your spouse. Ethan took his suit jacket out, retrieved the identical white envelope, held it up like a mirror between them. This is the contract for annulment, he stated, and I put my signature on it. Everyone in the room held their breath. Celeste touched her son's shoulder with her hand. Leave now. Then they left. Don't yell. Don't slam doors. Just a last, silent departure. After being stripped of everything that had previously made her untouchable, Eliza was left standing in the center of the room, still wearing lace and white. No one moved for a long time. Then a silent figure got up and walked away. Then another. Then two more. The wedding then started to fall apart. She wasn't surrounded by people. They offered no consolation. They didn't request an explanation. Because I secretly believe they were aware. Not the whole tale, perhaps. However, they had had enough. With frantic eyes and hurried breath, Eliza scanned the area for somebody to stand next to her. Nobody did. Not even Mom. Susan stood at the edge of the room, clutching the strap of her purse as if it held her up. Her eyes were big, and her face was pallid, as if she had just discovered that the girl she had nurtured was not what she had envisioned. Eliza gave me another look. "And the fire was extinguished this time," she said. "You've always wanted to defeat me." "No," I replied. "I simply stopped allowing you to drag me down. That was the end of it." She pivoted, rushed for the door. However, this time, nobody trailed. She was not called after. Nobody mentioned her name. There was no more music. The gathering didn't get better. Considering that it was never a wedding, it was a show, and the curtain was down. Where I, at last, quit knocking, I woke up at my Boston apartment a week after the wedding, if you can still call it that. Not a single blossom. No music on the piano. No hushed excuses or fake grins. Simply be silent. Very quiet. The sort that envelops you like a blanket and you don't even realize you've been missing it. On the nightstand, my phone buzzed. Mom. 3 days and the 9th missed call. I didn't respond. I didn't have to, since I was already aware of what she would say, or, more accurately, what she would not say. A Band-Aid apology wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want her to ask how I was doing, cry, or express pride. If such words ever appeared, they would be about her, concerning guilt, regarding the image, regarding repairing what she allowed to decay for years. She texted me later that afternoon as I was filling the one mug I always use, the cracked one with the faded blue rim, with coffee. "I am aware of your anger. I am powerless to alter the past. However, I'd like to see you. Only the two of us. Supper, please." I just stood there and stared at it for a minute. I would have said yes if I had been the girl with the well-ironed dress and the courteous silence. They would have arrived 5 minutes early. The second cheapest item on the menu is what I would have ordered, would have grinned despite each detour, would have returned home feeling stuffed with words she was never able to express. But me like that. This was no longer her home. I put the phone down, not with rage, not out of spite, only with finality. I went for a stroll by the Charles River later that night. It was one of those fall evenings when the lake reflected the string lights, like gentle recollections, and the air smelled of wind and cinnamon. I took a seat beneath one of the hanging lanterns on a stone bench. I took a picture out of my wallet. I had carried it for too long. It was Christmas. I was 16. Eliza, in the center, is wearing bright red and has a hallmark-like smile. Mom's hand on her shoulder at her side. Dad is carrying a wine glass in the backdrop. And me, hidden behind the tree, half visible, over to the side, literally concealed by tinsel. That girl in the photo caught my attention. The person who came each year in the hopes that things will be different this time. "That you matter too," someone would say. I folded the picture. I had it slide into my bag, not to discard, not to be forgotten, simply to stop carrying it as if I had to justify it. I made reservations for a solo excursion to Maine the following morning, a vacation I'd always wanted to take but kept delaying because of birthdays or family vacations to which I wasn't actually invited. I purchased the ticket. I didn't bring much. I kept it a secret. I didn't feel bad about choosing myself for the first time in my life. My phone buzzed once more later that night, right before bed. Dad. I took it up. I didn't owe him anything, however. I knew it was important if he was phoning. He spoke in a gruff tone, not as fast as I recalled, as if he had aged over the past week. "Rachel," he said, "this is not my forte." I didn't answer. I simply listened. However, that day, when you said, when your mom finally recognized Eliza for who she truly was, I believe she finally realized how alone you've been. He hesitated. I heard the breath catch. I was mistaken. I allowed her to establish the tone for our family. I allowed her to act as though love was quiet. I called it calm as I stood there and you were invisible. He hesitated once more. This one is lengthier. He wasn't in a hurry. I am aware that nothing is resolved by it. But I must tell you, now I see you. I shut my eyes. And there was no pain for the first time. SAID, thanks Dad. However, I no longer require an apology. All I need is freedom. I took the old family album off the top shelf after we had hung it. It wasn't burned by me, didn't tear it up. It was just put in a box, closed it with tape. It was labeled, for the patient version of myself. I then got into bed. There's no need to see who called. There's no need to change the past. I was done with that phase of my life, not with a blast. However, the door was silent and eventually stopped being knocked on. Because of the belonging thing. It is not derived from blood. It results from being noticed. And you can if no one else ever sees you. Sometimes leaving the love you pleaded for is the bravest thing you will ever do. And give up pleading permanently.